Have you ever wondered what goes through an artificial intelligence's circuits when it tries to figure out the most mysterious personality type in the world? I mean, seriously, if INFJs are called the rarest personality type, and they're known for being impossible to read even by other humans, what on earth happens when cold, calculated AI tries to crack their code? Well, buckle up, because today we're diving deep into this fascinating collision between machine learning and human complexity. And trust me, what you're about to discover might just blow your mind. Look, here's the thing. We're living in an age where AI can predict what you'll buy before you even know you want it. It can finish your sentences, recognize your face in a crowd, and even detect emotions from the way you type. But INFJs? They're a whole different ballgame. See, INFJs don't just think differently. They operate on a level that's so layered, so nuanced, that even the smartest algorithms start sweating. Okay, they don't actually sweat, but you get what I'm saying. Today, we're going to explore exactly what happens when cutting-edge technology meets the deepest personality type known to psychology. So stick around, because by the end of this, you'll understand why this clash is way more interesting than you'd think. How AI reads human personalities. Alright, so how does AI even attempt to understand human personalities in the first place? Modern AI uses something called machine learning, which is basically teaching computers to recognize patterns in massive amounts of data. When it comes to personality assessment, AI looks at things like the words you use and how often you use them, your sentence structure and writing style, your social media behavior and posting patterns, response times and communication frequency, the emotional indicators in text, sentiment analysis, behavioral patterns across different platforms. The AI takes all this data, compares it to millions of other data points, and then makes predictions about your personality traits. It's like a superpowered pattern-matching machine that never gets tired and can process information at lightning speed. For most personality types, this works pretty well. Extroverts leave clear digital footprints with frequent posts and lots of social interaction. Thinkers use logical, structured language. Sensors focus on concrete details and facts. But INFJs? They're where the system starts to glitch. The first challenge: INFJ communication paradox. Here's where things get interesting and frankly a bit messy for AI. INFJs communicate in ways that completely confuse pattern recognition software. On one hand, they're deep, philosophical, and abstract in their thinking. They love discussing big ideas, future possibilities, and the meaning behind everything. This makes AI flag them as intuitive types. So far, so good. But then, and here's the kicker, INFJs are also incredibly practical when they need to be. They can switch from discussing existential philosophy to giving detailed, step-by-step advice. They can be poetic one moment and brutally logical the next. AI systems are trained to look for consistency. When someone talks like a philosopher, the algorithm expects them to keep talking like a philosopher. But INFJs don't play by those rules. They'll shift communication styles depending on who they're talking to, what the situation demands, and what outcome they're trying to achieve. This adaptability, this chameleon-like quality, throws AI for a loop. The system sees contradictory data and doesn't know what to do with it. Is this person intuitive or sensing? Are they thinking or feeling? The answer is yes, they're all of it depending on the context. The invisible presence problem. Now, let's talk about something that really messes with AI's ability to read INFJs, their minimal digital footprint. INFJs are introverts who value their privacy like it's made of gold. While other types might post 15 times a day about their breakfast, their workout, and their feelings about the weather, INFJs are way more selective. They might go weeks without posting anything personal at all. But when they do post, oh boy, it's usually something profound. A quote that cuts to the heart of the human experience. A thought that makes you stop scrolling and actually think. A comment that somehow perfectly captures what everyone else was feeling but couldn't put into words. The problem for AI is that these posts are few and far between. Machine learning algorithms need data, lots of it, to make accurate predictions. When you've only got a handful of posts to work with, and each one seems to come from a slightly different angle, the AI simply doesn't have enough information to build a reliable profile. It's like trying to draw a complete picture when you've only got 3 or 4 dots on the page. You can make guesses, but you're probably going to get it wrong. The emotional complexity confusion. Here's another massive headache for AI: INFJ's emotional complexity. Most AI sentiment analysis works on a pretty simple scale. It looks for words and phrases that indicate positive emotions, negative emotions, or neutral ones. Happy, sad, angry, excited. These are emotions that AI can usually identify with decent accuracy. But INFJs don't do simple emotions. They do emotional layers. They feel multiple, often contradictory emotions at the same time. They might feel hopeful and heartbroken simultaneously. They can be disappointed but still optimistic. They experience joy tinged with melancholy, or peace mixed with restlessness. When an INFJ writes something, it's often saturated with these nuanced, complex emotional states. A single sentence might contain hope, concern, warmth, and caution all at once. To another human, especially another INFJ, this reads as authentic and deeply meaningful. To AI, it's a mess of conflicting signals. The algorithm sees positive sentiment markers, but also negative ones. It detects optimism, but also worry. The result? The AI often averages everything out to neutral, completely missing the rich emotional landscape that's actually there. It's like asking a computer to appreciate a symphony by only measuring the volume. Sure, it can tell you how loud or quiet it is, but it completely misses the melody, harmony, and emotional impact. The privacy shield. INFJs are masters of the privacy shield, and this is where AI really hits a brick wall. See, INFJs will absolutely engage in deep conversations online. They'll discuss philosophy, psychology, social issues, and the human condition until the cows come home. But they'll do all this without revealing much about themselves personally. They're like therapists who guide the conversation, ask insightful questions, and help others process their feelings, all while keeping their own cards close to their chest. They'll share universal truths and observations about humanity, but rarely their own vulnerable moments. AI systems are designed to build personality profiles based on personal disclosure. The algorithm looks for first-person statements, emotional revelations, and personal anecdotes. I feel this way about that. This happened to me and I felt X. I'm struggling with Y. But INFJs? They're more likely to say things like, many people find that when they experience loss, they discover unexpected sources of strength. Notice how that's a profound observation without being a personal confession. That's the INFJ way. This drives AI absolutely bonkers because the system has tons of data showing that this person is thoughtful, insightful, and emotionally intelligent, but almost no data about who they actually are as an individual. The AI can tell that someone deep is behind these words, but it can't figure out what that depth looks like. The pattern-breaking problem. One of AI's greatest strengths is spotting patterns. It's what the technology was built to do. But INFJs? They're pattern breakers. Most people have fairly predictable patterns in their behavior. They post at certain times, engage with certain topics, and respond to things in consistent ways. Extroverts consistently seek social interaction. Thinkers consistently prioritize logic. Sensors consistently focus on present reality. INFJs, though, they're all over the map. They might be super active for 2 weeks, engaging deeply with others, then completely disappear for a month. They'll post about spirituality one day, then share a detailed analysis of a technical problem the next. They'll seem warm and open in one conversation, then distant and reserved in another. This isn't because INFJs are inconsistent or fake. It's because they're responding authentically to their internal state, which is constantly processing and integrating new information and experiences. They're also highly responsive to the energy and needs of others, which means their behavior changes based on who they're interacting with. For AI, this looks like noise in the data. The algorithm tries to find the real pattern underneath, but there isn't one single pattern to find. The INFJ's pattern is complexity itself, which ironically makes them patternless from an AI perspective. The context-dependent nature. Let's talk about how INFJs change based on context, another nightmare for AI systems. INFJs are incredibly context-aware. They read the room, or the chat, or the comment section, and adjust their communication style accordingly. In a professional setting, they might be all business, clear, direct, and efficient. In a support group, they're warm and empathetic. In a philosophical discussion, they're abstract and theoretical. With close friends, they might be surprisingly playful and witty. Each of these contexts brings out a different facet of the INFJ personality. And here's the thing, they're all authentic. None of these versions is fake. They're all real expressions of who the INFJ is, just adapted to what the situation needs. But AI doesn't understand context the way humans do. Sure, advanced AI can recognize whether you're in a work chat versus a personal conversation, but it doesn't grasp the subtle social dynamics that INFJs are constantly reading and responding to. So the AI builds multiple profiles based on these different contexts, and none of them quite match up. In the work context, the person looks like one personality type. In the personal context, they look like another. The algorithm doesn't realize these are all facets of the same complex person. It just sees inconsistency and gets confused. The intuition versus data problem. Here's a fundamental incompatibility between AI and INFJs. INFJs lead with intuition, while AI leads with data. INFJs are guided by their dominant cognitive function, introverted intuition, and I. This means they're constantly processing information beneath the conscious level, connecting dots that others don't even see, and arriving at insights that seem to come out of nowhere. They just know things without always being able to explain how they know them. When an INFJ writes or communicates, their insights often skip over the logical steps that got them there. They'll jump straight to the conclusion or the deeper meaning. To another intuitive person, this feels natural and enlightening. To AI, it looks random. AI needs to see the data trail. It wants to know, what information did you process? What logical steps did you take? How did you arrive at this conclusion? But INFJs often can't provide that roadmap because their thinking doesn't work that way. Their insights bubble up from their subconscious after processing patterns they've observed over time. The AI sees these jumps in logic and flags them as errors or inconsistencies. It doesn't understand that for INFJs, these intuitive leaps are actually the most reliable part of their cognitive process. The idealism masking realism. Here's another twist that confuses AI. INFJs are idealists who sound like idealists but think like realists. When you read an INFJ's writing, you'll often find beautiful visions of how the world could be, passionate advocacy for causes, and deep faith in human potential. The language is inspiring, hopeful, and idealistic. AI's sentiment analysis picks up all these positive, forward-thinking markers and categorizes the person as an optimistic idealist. But underneath that idealistic language, INFJs are often painfully realistic about human nature and the world's problems. They see the darkness clearly, sometimes more clearly than anyone else. Their idealism isn't naive. It's a conscious choice to focus on possibilities despite being fully aware of the obstacles. An INFJ might write, "We have the power to create a more compassionate society," and AI reads that as simple optimism. But what the INFJ actually means is, "I'm fully aware of how cruel and broken things are right now. I understand the complex systemic issues that got us here, and I still choose to believe we can do better because the alternative is despair." The AI misses all those layers. It just sees the surface-level optimism and builds a profile around that, completely missing the complex mixture of hope and hard-won realism that actually defines the INFJ perspective. The empathy overload. Let's dive into how INFJ empathy breaks AI's assessment tools. INFJs are empaths in the truest sense. They don't just understand other people's emotions intellectually, they actually feel them. When they're engaging with someone who's hurting, they genuinely experience that pain. When they're talking to someone who's excited, they catch that excitement. This means that INFJ writing and communication is often colored by the emotions of the people they're interacting with. Their responses mirror and validate others' feelings. They adjust their emotional tone to meet people where they are. For AI, this creates a huge problem. The algorithm tries to assess the INFJ's baseline emotional state, but it keeps changing based on who they're talking to. In one conversation thread, the INFJ seems melancholic because they're supporting someone through grief. In another, they seem energetic and optimistic because they're celebrating someone's success. The AI doesn't understand that the INFJ isn't being inconsistent. They're being empathetic. The system thinks it's looking at one person with mood swings when it's actually looking at one person with exceptional emotional attunement. The future-focused challenge. INFJs are future-oriented in a way that AI struggles to categorize. When INFJs communicate, they're often thinking 10 steps ahead. They're not just responding to what's happening now. They're considering implications, downstream effects, and long-term patterns. A simple question might trigger a complex analysis of possible future scenarios. Most AI personality assessment is built around present-focused data. What are you saying now? How are you feeling now? What are you doing now? But INFJs live partially in the future. Their present moment includes their vision of what could be and their concerns about what might be. When an INFJ responds to a current event, they're often really responding to what they see coming next. When they give advice, they're usually considering not just the immediate situation but the path ahead. This forward-looking quality is baked into everything they do. AI reads this and gets confused because the responses don't always seem to match the present situation. The INFJ might seem over-concerned about a small issue because they see where it's heading, or surprisingly calm about a big problem because they can see the path through it. Without understanding the INFJ's future vision, the AI misinterprets their present behavior. When AI gets it half right, interestingly, AI doesn't get INFJs completely wrong. It usually gets them half right, which is almost worse. Advanced personality assessment AI might correctly identify that someone is introverted based on posting frequency and preference for deeper conversations. Intuitive based on abstract language and big-picture thinking. Complex and thoughtful based on writing depth and vocabulary. But it misses the feeling function because INFJs often express their values through logical-sounding arguments. It misses the judging function because INFJs can seem spontaneous when they're actually just adaptable. It misses the depth of their empathy because they don't wear their hearts on their sleeves. So the AI might tag someone as INTJ, the architect, or INFP, the mediator, when they're actually INFJ. The system gets close, but close isn't the same as accurate. And for INFJs who already feel misunderstood, being almost correctly categorized somehow feels worse than being completely missed. The paradox of visibility. Here's an interesting paradox. INFJs want to be understood, but they also protect their privacy. They want authentic connection, but they're selective about who gets to see their true self. They have so much to say, but they often stay silent. AI can't make sense of these contradictions because, from a data perspective, they don't compute. Either someone wants to be visible or they don't, right? Either they're open or they're private. Either they engage or they withdraw. But INFJs are all of these things at once. They're simultaneously the most sharing and most private people you'll meet. They'll tell you profound truths about the human experience while revealing almost nothing about their personal struggles. They'll engage deeply in meaningful conversations while keeping huge parts of themselves hidden. This paradox is natural to humans who understand that vulnerability and boundaries can coexist. But to AI, it looks like contradictory data that doesn't fit any existing pattern. What this means for the future. So what does all this mean as AI becomes more sophisticated and more integrated into our lives? Well, there are a few implications worth thinking about. First, as AI-driven personality assessments become more common in hiring, dating apps, and social media algorithms, INFJs might find themselves consistently mischaracterized. They might not show up in searches for people with certain traits they actually have. They might be matched with incompatible people or jobs because the algorithm doesn't understand their complexity. Second, this highlights a fundamental limitation in AI's current approach to understanding humans. INFJs aren't the only complex personality type. Humans in general are far more nuanced than data patterns can capture. If AI can't read INFJs accurately, what else is it missing? Third, this might actually be good news for INFJs and anyone who values privacy and authenticity. In a world where AI increasingly profiles and predicts human behavior, being unreadable to algorithms is a kind of superpower. It means INFJs maintain their autonomy and mystery even in the age of big data. The human element remains essential. At the end of the day, this whole exploration points to something important. There are aspects of human nature that technology still can't grasp. INFJs represent the complexity, depth, and paradox that make us beautifully human. They remind us that people aren't just data points or patterns. We're stories, contradictions, growth, and constant change. We're context-dependent, relationship-driven, and deeply influenced by things that can't be quantified. AI is an amazing tool that can help us in countless ways. But when it comes to truly understanding someone, especially someone as layered as an INFJ, there's still no substitute for human connection, patience, and the willingness to accept complexity without needing to reduce it to simple categories. Can AI ever truly read an INFJ? So, can AI ever truly read an INFJ? Maybe someday, but not anytime soon. As AI technology advances, it will get better at handling nuance, context, and complexity. Future systems might be able to recognize patterns in apparent patternlessness. They might learn to appreciate depth without needing to categorize it neatly. But here's the thing, by the time AI gets sophisticated enough to read INFJs accurately, INFJs will have evolved too. They'll have found new ways to be complex, new layers to explore, new paradoxes to embody. It's an endless game of catch-up where the target keeps moving. And honestly, that's exactly how it should be. Some things are meant to remain mysterious, including the depths of human personality and the particular enigma that is the INFJ type. Conclusion. So, what happens when AI tries to read an INFJ? In short, it struggles. It gets confused. It makes educated guesses that are sometimes close but never quite right. It builds partial profiles that miss the whole picture. It sees contradictions where there's actually complex coherence. But this isn't a failure of technology. It's a testament to human complexity. INFJs embody the paradoxes that make us beautifully, frustratingly, wonderfully human. They're private yet sharing, logical yet feeling, realistic yet idealistic, visible yet hidden. They remind us that people can't be reduced to algorithms or predicted by patterns. They show us that understanding requires more than data. It requires empathy, patience, and the willingness to sit with complexity without needing to simplify it. So if you're an INFJ feeling unseen, misunderstood, or impossible to categorize, own it. Your complexity isn't a bug. It's a feature. Your ability to be unreadable to machines while being deeply meaningful to humans is a gift in this increasingly automated world. And if you're trying to understand an INFJ, whether you're human or AI, here's my advice. Stop trying to figure them out completely. Instead, appreciate the mystery, enjoy the discovery, and remember that the best things in life, including the best people, are the ones that can't be fully decoded. Thanks for sticking with me through this deep dive. If you found this interesting, let me know in the comments. And if you're an INFJ, I'd love to hear whether this resonated with your experience. Do you feel unreadable? Does this analysis match how you experience the world? Until next time, stay curious, stay complex, and never apologize for being impossible to categorize.